Every single moment of your life is being shaped by the choices you make right now, the thoughts you're holding in your mind, and the vision you're cultivating for your future. Success isn't something that happens to people by accident. It's something they architect, deliberately, intentionally, stone by stone, thought by thought, action by action. The most extraordinary truth you'll ever discover is that you are the master builder of your own destiny, and the blueprint for your greatest achievements already exists within you, waiting to be drawn out and made real in the world. Orison Swett Marden's timeless masterpiece reveals a profound understanding of human potential that remains as relevant today as when it was first written. This isn't just another book about success. It's a revelation about the fundamental laws that govern achievement, prosperity, and the realization of human possibility. What Marden understood, and what he articulated with such clarity and conviction, is that our lives are not the product of chance, circumstance, or luck, but rather the direct result of the mental patterns we maintain, the habits we cultivate, and the unwavering determination we bring to our endeavors. The foundation of everything Marden teaches rests on one revolutionary principle: we become what we think about most of the time. Your dominant thoughts are creating your future right now, in this very moment. If you fill your mind with images of failure, limitation, and impossibility, you're architecting a life of mediocrity and disappointment. But when you deliberately choose thoughts of abundance, capability, and achievement, you begin constructing a destiny of remarkable success and fulfillment. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical psychology. Your thoughts shape your beliefs determine your actions, and your actions create your results. Throughout history, every great achievement began as a thought in someone's mind. The magnificent cathedrals of Europe, the technological marvels of our modern age, the scientific breakthroughs that have transformed human civilization, all of these started as invisible ideas before they became visible realities. Marden emphasizes that this same creative power resides within every human being. You have within you right now the capacity to envision something greater than your current circumstances, and through sustained mental focus combined with persistent action, to bring that vision into tangible existence. Consider the story of a young man who grew up in poverty, surrounded by limitation and lack. Every external circumstance suggested he would remain trapped in the same conditions that bound his family for generations. But this young man discovered something powerful. He learned that he could control his thoughts. Instead of accepting the mental programming of poverty that surrounded him, he began to deliberately imagine himself as successful, prosperous, and influential. Every morning before dawn, he would spend time visualizing his ideal future in vivid detail. He saw himself dressed in fine clothes, conducting important business, living in a beautiful home, making a significant contribution to society. His family and friends thought he was delusional, wasting his time on foolish daydreams when he should be accepting his lot in life. But something remarkable happened. As he continued to hold these mental images with unwavering faith and emotional intensity, his behavior began to change. He started carrying himself differently, speaking with greater confidence, seeking out opportunities that others overlooked. He educated himself relentlessly, reading every book he could find, learning from anyone who had achieved what he aspired to accomplish. The opportunities that came his way weren't magical or supernatural. They were the natural result of a mind that had been prepared to recognize and seize them. Within 10 years, this young man had built a thriving business, accumulated significant wealth, and become a respected leader in his community. He had literally architected a completely different fate from the one that seemed predetermined by his birth circumstances. This is the essence of what Marden teaches. Your present circumstances do not determine your future possibilities. What matters is the mental blueprint you're working from, the vision you're committed to, and the persistence you bring to the construction process. Most people fail to achieve their dreams not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they abandon their vision at the first sign of difficulty. They allow temporary setbacks to convince them that their goals are impossible, when in reality, obstacles are simply the universe's way of testing their commitment and strengthening their capabilities. The architecture of fate requires more than positive thinking. It demands positive action sustained over time. Marden was deeply practical in his approach. He understood that mental vision must be combined with physical effort, that dreams must be supported by discipline, that aspiration must be grounded in perspiration. The person who spends all their time visualizing success but never takes concrete action is engaging in fantasy, not creation. True architects of fate are those who maintain the mental image while simultaneously doing the daily work required to manifest it. Think about the farmer who plants seeds in the spring. He doesn't plant the seeds and then immediately expect a harvest. He understands that there's a natural gestation period, a time during which invisible processes are occurring beneath the surface. He waters the soil, removes the weeds, protects the young plants from pests and harsh weather. He maintains faith that if he does his part, nature will do its part, and in due season the harvest will come. This is exactly how the principles of success operate. You plant the seeds through your thoughts and intentions. You nurture them through your daily actions and habits. You protect them by guarding your mind against doubt and negativity, and you trust that in the proper time, you will reap what you have sown. One of the most powerful insights Marden shares is about the nature of obstacles and how successful people interpret them differently than unsuccessful people. When confronted with a significant challenge, the average person sees a reason to quit, a sign that they should give up on their goals and settle for something easier. But the person who understands the principles of achievement sees obstacles as opportunities for growth, as tests that will prove their worthiness for the success they seek. Every successful individual throughout history has faced moments of crushing difficulty, times when continuing seemed pointless and giving up seemed reasonable. What separated them from the masses was their refusal to interpret temporary defeat as permanent failure. There was a remarkable inventor who attempted to create a new type of light bulb. He tried thousands of different materials and configurations, and each one failed. His assistants became discouraged, feeling they were wasting their time on an impossible task. But this inventor had a completely different perspective. He didn't see failures, he saw successful discoveries of what didn't work, each one bringing him closer to the solution that would work. This mindset, this refusal to be discouraged by temporary setbacks, this interpretation of obstacles as stepping stones rather than stop signs, this is what enabled him to eventually create a revolutionary product that changed the world. If he had given up after the 100th failure or the 1000th, his name would be forgotten. But because he persisted, because he maintained his vision despite countless obstacles, he became immortalized as one of history's greatest inventors. Marden emphasizes that our character is being formed every single day through the small choices we make. Each time you choose discipline over indulgence, persistence over quitting, courage over fear, you're strengthening the mental and moral muscles that will carry you to success. Each time you choose the opposite, you're weakening yourself and making future success less likely. This is why seemingly small decisions matter so much. The choice to get up early or sleep in, to read something educational or waste time on trivial entertainment, to have that difficult conversation or avoid it, these aren't isolated incidents with no consequences. They're character-forming moments that are quite literally constructing your future self. Your habits are the building materials from which your fate is constructed. Show me your daily habits and I'll show you your future with remarkable accuracy. The person who has the habit of reading for self-improvement daily is architecting a future of expanded knowledge and capability. The person who has the habit of exercise and healthy eating is building a future of vitality and longevity. The person who has the habit of saving and investing is creating a future of financial security and independence. Conversely, the person whose habits include procrastination, excuse-making, and blame is constructing a future of frustration and unfulfilled potential. The beautiful truth that Marden reveals is that habits can be changed. You're not permanently locked into the patterns that currently define your life. Through conscious decision and consistent practice, you can replace destructive habits with constructive ones. It's not easy. Habits have momentum and inertia, but it's absolutely possible. The key is to start small, focus on one habit at a time, and maintain consistency until the new behavior becomes automatic. The person who tries to overhaul their entire life overnight almost always fails and returns to old patterns. But the person who commits to changing just one small habit and maintains that change for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, until it becomes ingrained, that person is genuinely transforming their destiny. Consider the transformative power of the habit of gratitude. Most people focus on what's wrong with their lives, what they lack, what disappoints them, and this mental focus creates a downward spiral of negativity and dissatisfaction. But the person who develops the habit of consciously identifying things to be grateful for each day, who trains their mind to notice blessings rather than problems, experiences a fundamental shift in their emotional state and their entire life experience. This isn't about denying real problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your mental focus to operate from a foundation of abundance rather than scarcity, appreciation rather than complaint. This single habit shift can transform your relationships, your health, your career prospects, your entire quality of life. Marden understood deeply that association is one of the most powerful forces shaping our destiny. The people you spend the most time with are influencing your thoughts, your beliefs, your standards, your aspirations, often without you even realizing it. If you're surrounded by complainers, critics, and people who have given up on their dreams, their mental patterns will subtly infect your own thinking. But if you intentionally seek out and spend time with people who are positive, ambitious, and actively working toward meaningful goals, their mental patterns will elevate your own thinking. This is why successful people are so selective about their associations. They understand that their mental environment is just as important as their physical environment, perhaps more so. You cannot control all the circumstances of your life, but you can absolutely control how you respond to those circumstances, and that makes all the difference. Two people can experience the exact same external situation and have completely different outcomes based solely on their internal response. One person loses their job and spirals into depression, bitterness, and long-term unemployment. Another person loses their job and uses it as a catalyst to start the business they've always dreamed about, or to switch to a more fulfilling career, or to finally pursue the education they've been postponing. The external event was identical, but the internal response created entirely different futures. This is the awesome power and terrible responsibility that comes with being human. You are not a victim of circumstances unless you choose to be. Even in genuinely difficult situations involving real hardship, loss, or injustice, you still retain the power to choose your response, to decide what meaning you'll assign to the experience, to determine whether it will defeat you or develop you. Marden shares numerous examples of individuals who faced catastrophic setbacks, devastating losses, and severe limitations, yet went on to achieve remarkable success because they refused to let circumstances dictate their destiny. They grieved, they struggled, they suffered, but they never surrendered their power to choose their response. The development of a powerful will is essential to architecting your fate. Willpower is like a muscle. It grows stronger with use and weaker with neglect. Every time you do something you don't feel like doing but know you should do, you're strengthening your will. Every time you resist a temptation, delay gratification for a greater future benefit, or push through discomfort to achieve a goal, you're building the mental fortitude that will serve you throughout your life. The person with a strong will can accomplish things that seem impossible to others. They can persist when others quit, sacrifice when others indulge, focus when others are distracted. But will alone isn't enough. Marden emphasizes that will must be guided by wisdom, discipline must be directed toward worthy objectives, persistence must be in service of meaningful goals. There are people who demonstrate tremendous willpower in pursuit of destructive or trivial aims. The truly successful person combines strong will with clear vision, knowing not just how to persist, but what to persist toward. This requires regular reflection, honest self-assessment, and the courage to adjust course when you discover you're pursuing the wrong objectives. The principle of concentration is another cornerstone of Marden's teaching. In a world filled with distractions, the ability to focus your mental energy on a single objective for an extended period is becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. Most people scatter their attention across dozens of different interests and never develop deep expertise in anything. They dabble, they sample, they skim the surface, and they wonder why they never achieve mastery or significant success in any domain. The architect of fate understands that concentrated effort over time produces exponential results. Better to become truly excellent at one thing than mediocre at many things. Think about the power of concentrated sunlight. Diffused sunlight is pleasant, but not particularly powerful. But when you concentrate those same rays through a magnifying glass onto a single point, you can start a fire. The same amount of energy, but concentrated rather than scattered, creates entirely different results. This is exactly what happens with human effort. The person who concentrates their energy, time, and attention on a clearly defined objective generates far more results than someone with 10 times the raw talent but scattered focus. This doesn't mean you can't have multiple interests or that you must dedicate your entire life to a single pursuit. It means that at any given moment, you should be clear about your primary objective and willing to say no to attractive opportunities that would dilute your focus. The successful entrepreneur focuses intensely on building their business, even though they have other interests they could pursue. The successful artist concentrates on developing their craft, resisting the temptation to chase every creative impulse. The successful student focuses on mastering their current subject before jumping to the next shiny topic. Concentration requires sacrifice, the sacrifice of good opportunities for the sake of great ones. Marden also addresses the critical importance of courage in shaping your destiny, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite fear. Every significant achievement requires you to step into the unknown, to risk failure, to endure potential criticism or rejection. The person who waits until they feel completely confident and unafraid will wait forever, because those feelings come after action, not before it. Courage is demonstrated by acting in alignment with your values and vision, even when you're terrified, even when the outcome is uncertain, even when others doubt you. There are countless stories of individuals who had to summon enormous courage to pursue their dreams. The artist who risked financial ruin to pursue their creative vision instead of taking a safe corporate job. The entrepreneur who invested their life savings into a business idea that everyone said would fail. The activist who spoke unpopular truths despite threats and persecution. The inventor who devoted years to a project with no guarantee of success. These people weren't fearless. They were afraid, but they acted anyway. They understood that the pain of regret for not trying is far worse than the pain of temporary failure. Your self-image, the way you see yourself in your own mind, has a profound impact on what you're able to achieve. If you see yourself as incompetent, unworthy, or destined for mediocrity, you will unconsciously sabotage opportunities and settle for less than you're capable of achieving. But if you develop a self-image of capability, worthiness, and potential, greatness, you'll behave in ways that align with that image. This isn't about arrogance or delusion. It's about recognizing the genuine potential that exists within you, the same creative power that exists in all human beings, and claiming it as your own. Marden encourages readers to study the lives of great achievers, not to worship them or feel inferior by comparison, but to recognize that they were ordinary people who tapped into extraordinary principles. They weren't blessed with supernatural abilities, they simply understood and applied the laws of success with greater consistency than most. Whatever they achieved is possible for you, perhaps not in the identical form, but in a form appropriate to your unique talents and circumstances. The inventor's success proves that focused persistence leads to breakthroughs. The entrepreneur's success proves that calculated risks can yield enormous rewards. The artist's success proves that dedication to craft eventually produces mastery. These aren't isolated miracles, they're demonstrations of universal principles that work for anyone who applies them. The practice of affirmation and self-talk is another powerful tool for architecting your fate. The conversations you have with yourself, often unconsciously, are programming your subconscious mind and influencing your behavior. Most people engage in brutally negative self-talk, constantly criticizing themselves, predicting failure, reinforcing their limitations. Then they wonder why they lack confidence and struggle to achieve their goals. The architect of fate deliberately chooses empowering self-talk. They consciously affirm their capabilities, rehearse successful outcomes, and speak to themselves with the same encouragement they would offer a dear friend. This practice might feel awkward or false at first, especially if you're accustomed to negative self-talk. But remember, your current self-talk also felt false when you first developed it. It only feels natural now because of repetition. With consistent practice, empowering affirmations become just as natural and far more beneficial. The key is to craft affirmations that are believable to you, that resonate with your actual aspirations, and that you repeat with emotional conviction, not just mechanical recitation. Marden emphasizes the transformative power of enthusiasm and passion in your pursuits. When you're genuinely excited about your work, when you approach your goals with emotional intensity and joy, you access energy and creativity that aren't available to someone merely going through the motions. Enthusiasm is contagious. It attracts opportunities, inspires others to help you, and sustains you through difficult periods. Two people with equal skills and knowledge will have vastly different results if one is passionate about their work and the other is indifferent. The passionate person will persist longer, notice more opportunities, inspire greater cooperation, and ultimately achieve far more. But how do you generate enthusiasm if you don't naturally feel it? Sometimes it's about reconnecting with your deeper purpose, remembering why you started on this path in the first place. Sometimes it's about finding aspects of your current work that you can appreciate and celebrate. Sometimes it's about adjusting your goals to better align with your authentic interests and values. The person who spends their life pursuing goals that don't truly matter to them, even if they achieve those goals, will find the victory hollow and unfulfilling. Better to pursue objectives that genuinely excite you, even if they're unconventional or misunderstood by others. The principle of service is woven throughout Marden's teaching. The most enduring success comes not from selfish ambition, but from creating genuine value for others. When you focus on how you can serve, how you can solve problems, how you can make life better for the people around you, success becomes almost a byproduct of your contribution. The business that focuses solely on profits often struggles and eventually fails. The business that focuses on creating exceptional value for customers, treating employees with dignity, and contributing to the community tends to thrive financially while also creating positive impact. This isn't naive idealism, it's practical wisdom confirmed by countless examples. Consider the doctor whose primary motivation is healing people versus the doctor whose primary motivation is making money. Both might be technically competent, But the one driven by service will typically build a more successful practice because patients sense the genuine care and become loyal advocates. The teacher who truly cares about student learning versus the teacher just collecting a paycheck creates entirely different results in the classroom. The principle applies universally. When you orient your efforts toward service, toward creating value for others, you align yourself with forces that support long-term success and fulfillment. This doesn't mean you should ignore your own needs or work for free. Proper compensation for the value you create is entirely appropriate and sustainable. The key is the order of priority: serve first and trust that appropriate rewards will follow. The person who insists on getting before giving, who constantly calculates what's in it for them before extending any effort, creates resistance and limits their own potential. The person who leads with generosity, who gives freely of their knowledge and effort, who seeks to create value without immediate guarantee of return, opens themselves to opportunities that wouldn't otherwise exist. Marden discusses at length the importance of developing your unique talents rather than trying to be someone you're not. Each person has a distinctive combination of interests, abilities, and perspectives that constitute their unique contribution potential. Discovering and developing these unique qualities is essential to both success and fulfillment. When you try to succeed by imitating others, copying their methods, pursuing their version of success, you're fighting against your own nature and limiting your potential. But when you identify what makes you uniquely you, and you build your life and career around those authentic qualities, you access a source of power and creativity that no amount of imitation can provide. This requires honest self-reflection and the courage to be different. Our culture often pushes conformity, encouraging everyone to pursue the same narrow definitions of success, follow the same conventional paths, value the same standard markers of achievement. The person who questions these assumptions, who dares to define success on their own terms, who pursues their unique vision, even when it doesn't fit the template, that person is truly architecting their fate rather than accepting a prefabricated destiny handed to them by society. The development of specialized knowledge in your chosen field is another critical element. In an age of information overload, the person who develops deep expertise in a specific domain becomes increasingly valuable. Generalized knowledge is everywhere, available to anyone with an internet connection. Specialized expertise, refined through years of study and practice, is rare and therefore valuable. Marden encourages continuous learning, treating yourself as a lifelong student regardless of your age or achievements. The moment you stop learning is the moment you start declining. The market rewards those who are constantly expanding their capabilities, developing new skills, deepening their expertise. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It must be applied. There are people with extensive theoretical knowledge who accomplish little because they never translate their learning into action. And there are people with less formal education who achieve remarkable results because they're willing to experiment, to learn through doing, to refine their approach through practical application. The ideal is to combine learning with action, to study and implement simultaneously, to use each experience as both a teacher and a laboratory for testing new ideas. Marden addresses the trap of perfectionism, the tendency to delay action until conditions are ideal, knowledge is complete, or fear is eliminated. This perfectionist mentality prevents more dreams from being realized than any external obstacle. The person waiting for the perfect time to start their business, the perfect idea for their creative project, the perfect plan for their life transformation, that person will wait forever because perfect conditions never arrive. The architect of fate understands that you begin where you are, with what you have, and you improve as you go. Progress, not perfection, is the objective. Consider the author who delays writing their book because they don't feel they've found the perfect angle, or the perfect opening sentence, or the perfect title. Years pass, the book remains unwritten, and the potential impact it could have had never materializes. Meanwhile, another author with a less polished idea, but more willingness to act, actually writes their book, publishes it, receives feedback, learns from the experience, and writes a second book that's even better. Action creates momentum, momentum creates results, results create confidence, confidence creates more action, and the upward spiral continues. But it all starts with the willingness to act imperfectly. The principle of delayed gratification is fundamental to long-term success. Every significant achievement requires you to sacrifice immediate pleasures for future benefits. The student who studies instead of parties, the entrepreneur who reinvests profits instead of spending them, the athlete who trains rigorously instead of indulging in excess. These people are all practicing delayed gratification. They're making deposits in their future, trusting that current sacrifices will yield later rewards. This is perhaps the clearest dividing line between those who achieve their dreams and those who don't, the willingness to endure present discomfort for future advantage. Our culture increasingly encourages immediate gratification, instant results, quick fixes, and easy solutions. This makes the practice of delayed gratification more challenging but also more valuable. The person who can resist the pull of immediate pleasure, who can maintain focus on long-term objectives despite short-term temptations, that person has a massive competitive advantage. Not because they're smarter or more talented, but because they're willing to do what most people won't: trade today's comfort for tomorrow's achievement. Marden emphasizes the importance of physical health as a foundation for success. Your body is the vehicle through which you pursue your dreams, and neglecting it undermines everything else you're trying to accomplish. The person who is constantly tired, sick, or operating below their physical potential simply cannot perform at the level required for significant achievement. This doesn't mean you must be an athlete or fitness fanatic, but it does mean treating your body with respect through adequate sleep, reasonable nutrition, regular movement, and stress management. The connection between physical vitality and mental clarity, between bodily health and emotional resilience, between fitness and productivity, these connections are undeniable. When you feel good physically, you think more clearly, you have more energy for your pursuits, you're more resilient in the face of setbacks, you're more optimistic about your future. When you feel terrible physically, everything becomes harder. Problems seem more overwhelming, obstacles seem more insurmountable, goals seem more impossible. Taking care of your physical health isn't vanity, it's strategic investment in your capacity to achieve your dreams. The practice of visualization deserves special attention because of its remarkable power. This isn't wishful thinking or magical manifestation. It's practical mental rehearsal that prepares your mind and body for successful performance. Athletes have known this for decades. They mentally rehearse their performances in vivid detail, seeing themselves execute perfectly, feeling the movements in their imagination, and this mental practice actually improves their physical performance. The same principle applies to any domain of achievement. When you regularly visualize yourself successfully accomplishing your goals, several things happen. First, you're programming your subconscious mind with the image of success, making it feel more familiar and achievable. Second, you're identifying potential obstacles and planning how to overcome them. Third, you're building emotional associations with your goal, connecting it to positive feelings that motivate action. Fourth, you're activating the same neural pathways that will fire when you actually perform the action, essentially practicing without physically moving. Fifth, you're training your mind to notice opportunities and resources that will help you achieve your vision. Effective visualization is specific, emotionally engaging, and regularly practiced. Don't just vaguely imagine success, see it in rich detail. What exactly are you doing? Where are you? Who's around you? What do you see, hear, smell, feel? What emotions are you experiencing? The more vivid and detailed your mental image, the more powerful its influence on your subconscious mind and your behavior. And consistency matters more than duration. 5 minutes of focused visualization daily is far more effective than an hour-long session once a month. Marden discusses the critical importance of decision and commitment. Most people drastically underestimate the power of making a firm, unwavering decision. They dabble, they try, they hope, they wish, but they never truly decide and commit. There's a world of difference between "I'll try to start a business" and "I am starting a business, period." The first statement leaves room for retreat, for excuse-making, for giving up when things get difficult. The second statement burns the bridges, commits fully, and activates a different level of mental and emotional resources. When you make a true decision, when you commit at the deepest level, your brain begins solving problems and identifying opportunities that weren't visible before. It's not that these solutions and opportunities didn't exist, it's that your uncommitted mind wasn't looking for them. Commitment focuses your attention, and your attention determines what you see in the world around you. This is why people often say that once they truly decided to do something, resources and opportunities seem to appear almost magically. The magic is simply focused attention combined with committed action. The role of faith in the achievement process cannot be overstated. Not necessarily religious faith, though that can be powerful for those who hold it, but faith in the process, faith in yourself, faith that your efforts will eventually bear fruit even when current evidence suggests otherwise. Every significant achievement requires a period of invisible progress, time when you're working diligently but seeing no tangible results. This is the testing period, the time when most people give up because they lose faith. They plant seeds but pull them up before harvest time to see if they're growing. The person who maintains faith during this invisible period, who continues working even when results aren't yet visible, who trusts the process even when doubt whispers that it's pointless, that person is positioning themselves for breakthrough. Because the results are coming, the harvest is growing, the fruit is forming, even though it can't yet be seen. Faith bridges the gap between current reality and future possibility, allowing you to act as if your goals are already assured even while you're still working toward them. Marden shares powerful examples of individuals who faced seemingly impossible circumstances yet achieved remarkable success through unwavering faith combined with persistent action. The entrepreneur who started their business during an economic recession when everyone said it was the worst possible time. The artist who continued creating despite years of rejection and criticism. The inventor who maintained faith in their vision despite countless failed experiments. These people weren't naive or delusional, they simply understood that external circumstances and other people's opinions don't determine what's possible for someone with genuine commitment and faith. The principle of expectation is closely related to faith, but distinct in important ways. Your expectations shape your reality more powerfully than most people realize. If you expect to fail, you unconsciously sabotage your efforts in ways that fulfill your expectation. If you expect people to reject you, you behave in ways that trigger rejection. If you expect problems and difficulties, you interpret neutral situations through that lens and create the very difficulties you expected. But when you expect success, you unconsciously behave in ways that support successful outcomes. When you expect people to be helpful, you approach them differently and often receive the help you expected. When you expect to find solutions, you notice possibilities that others overlook. This isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing which lens you'll use to interpret ambiguous situations, choosing whether you'll focus on possibilities or limitations, choosing whether you'll expect the best or the worst. Since both positive and negative expectations tend to self-fulfill, you might as well expect positive outcomes and enjoy the psychological benefits even if you're wrong. The person who expects the worst and gets it was miserable beforehand. The person who expects the best and doesn't get it at least enjoyed the journey. And more often than not, positive expectations create positive results. The development of resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and failures, is essential for anyone architecting their fate. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of the path to success. Every successful person has a resume of failures that would discourage most people. But they didn't interpret those failures as evidence of their inadequacy or proof that their goals were impossible. They extracted lessons, adjusted their approach, and continued moving forward. This resilience, this refusal to let temporary defeat become permanent failure, is what separates those who eventually succeed from those who give up. How do you develop resilience? Partly through reframing your interpretation of setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "I discovered one approach that doesn't work." Instead of thinking, "This proves I'm not capable," think, "This is developing the strength I'll need for greater challenges ahead." These reframes don't deny the pain of failure or pretend everything is fine. They simply extract value from difficult experiences instead of being destroyed by them. Resilience also comes from maintaining perspective. The setback that seems catastrophic today will likely seem minor when viewed from 5 or 10 years in the future. Many people can look back on what seemed like terrible failures at the time and recognize them now as blessings in disguise, redirecting them toward better paths, teaching them essential lessons, building character and capabilities they wouldn't have developed otherwise. When you're in the midst of difficulty, try to adopt that future perspective. Ask yourself how you'll view this situation years from now, and let that broader view temper your emotional response. Marden addresses the importance of integrity and character in building lasting success. You can achieve temporary success through deception, manipulation, or exploitation, but it won't last and it won't satisfy. Sustainable success, the kind that grows stronger over time and brings genuine fulfillment, is built on a foundation of integrity. This means keeping your word, treating people fairly, being honest in your dealings, delivering on your promises, and conducting yourself according to principles rather than mere convenience. Character is what you are when no one is watching, when there's no immediate reward for doing right and no immediate punishment for doing wrong. The person who maintains their integrity in those situations is building something far more valuable than money or status. They're building self-respect and trustworthiness that become the foundation for everything else they achieve. And while integrity might occasionally cost you in the short term, it pays compound interest over the long term. People want to do business with those they trust. They want to support those they respect. They want to follow leaders they believe in. The practice of gratitude as a daily discipline deserves deeper exploration. When you consciously focus on what you're grateful for, you're not just feeling a pleasant emotion, you're literally rewiring your brain's default patterns. Neuroscience has demonstrated that regular gratitude practice strengthens neural pathways associated with positive emotions and weakens pathways associated with anxiety and depression. Over time, this makes optimism and contentment your default states rather than worry and dissatisfaction. But gratitude isn't just about feeling good, it's strategically valuable for achievement. When you approach your goals from a mindset of appreciation for what you already have, you operate from abundance rather than scarcity. This affects how you interact with others, how you respond to setbacks, how you evaluate opportunities, how you make decisions. The grateful person attracts cooperation and support in ways the resentful person never will. Gratitude creates a positive energy that others respond to, opening doors and creating possibilities that wouldn't otherwise exist. Marden teaches that the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. Most people ask disempowering questions. Why can't I ever succeed? Why does this always happen to me? What's wrong with me? These questions direct your mind to focus on problems, limitations, and inadequacy. They produce answers that reinforce helplessness and victimhood. But when you ask empowering questions, you get empowering answers. What can I learn from this situation? How can I use this challenge to become stronger? What opportunity might be hidden in this difficulty? What's one small step I could take right now to move toward my goal? Your brain is a magnificent problem-solving instrument, but it will work on whatever questions you give it. Feed it terrible questions and it will produce terrible answers. Feed it powerful questions and it will generate powerful solutions. This is a simple practice with profound implications. Throughout your day, pay attention to the questions running through your mind, and when you notice disempowering ones, consciously replace them with questions that direct your focus toward possibilities and solutions. The principle of modeling successful people is another powerful strategy Marden advocates. Why reinvent the wheel when you can study people who have already achieved what you're pursuing? Find individuals who have accomplished goals similar to yours. Study their strategies. Learn from their mistakes, adopt their proven approaches, and adapt them to your unique circumstances. This dramatically shortens your learning curve and helps you avoid common pitfalls. But modeling doesn't mean mindless imitation. You're not trying to become a clone of your role model. You're seeking to understand the principles and strategies behind their success so you can apply them in your own unique way. The successful entrepreneur you study might operate in a completely different industry than you, but their principles of market research, customer service, financial management, and team building can inform your approach. The accomplished artist you admire might work in a different medium, but their discipline, their approach to creativity, their methods for developing craft, these are transferable lessons. Marden emphasizes the transformative power of reading and continuous education. Books give you access to the accumulated wisdom of humanity's greatest thinkers, achievers, and teachers. For the cost of a few dollars and a few hours of reading time, you can learn lessons that took others decades and fortunes to discover. The person who reads regularly is in conversation with the finest minds who have ever lived, regardless of their personal circumstances or formal education. This is democratized wisdom on an unprecedented scale. But reading must be active, not passive. Don't just consume information, engage with it critically, take notes, ask questions, challenge assumptions, and most importantly, apply what you learn. The person who reads 100 books but never implements any lessons has wasted their time. The person who reads one book and actually applies its core principles has invested wisely. Marden himself would want readers to treat his work not as something to merely admire, but as a practical blueprint to implement in daily life. The concept of momentum is crucial in understanding how success builds upon itself. Starting is the hardest part of any endeavor because you're working against inertia, against the weight of your current circumstances and habits. But once you get moving, once you generate even small amounts of progress, momentum begins working in your favor. Each small win makes the next step easier. Each completed task builds confidence for the next challenge. Each overcome obstacle strengthens your belief in what's possible. This is why taking action, any action aligned with your goals, is so important even when you don't feel ready. That first awkward attempt, that imperfect beginning, that uncertain step forward, these create movement where there was stagnation. And movement, even slow and clumsy movement, beats perfect planning that never translates to action. The architect who actually begins construction with an imperfect plan will end up with a completed building long before the architect who endlessly refines blueprints but never breaks ground. There's a profound principle about giving and receiving that Marden explores. The universe operates on reciprocity. What you send out tends to return to you multiplied. When you give generously of your time, knowledge, encouragement, and resources, without constantly calculating what you'll get in return, you set in motion forces that bring opportunities and blessings back to you, often from completely unexpected sources. This isn't mysticism, it's practical relationship dynamics. People remember generosity, they want to reciprocate, they speak well of you to others, They think of you when opportunities arise. Conversely, the person who operates from constant scarcity, who hoards their knowledge, who helps only when guaranteed immediate benefit, who constantly calculates every transaction, that person creates resistance in their relationships and limits their own potential. They might avoid being taken advantage of in individual transactions, but they lose the multiplicative benefits that come from generous engagement with the world. The most successful people Marden studied were almost universally generous, not because they were saints, but because they understood that giving creates abundance. The management of your energy is just as important as the management of your time. You can have all the time in the world, but if you're constantly exhausted, distracted, or emotionally depleted, that time won't translate to meaningful progress. Energy comes from multiple sources: physical health through sleep, nutrition, and exercise; emotional health through positive relationships and stress management; mental health through learning and creative stimulation; spiritual health through connection to purpose and meaning larger than yourself. The architect of fate learns to protect and renew their energy just as carefully as they plan their schedule. This means setting boundaries, saying no to energy-draining people and activities, creating routines that support vitality rather than deplete it, and regularly engaging in activities that restore and energize rather than merely distract or numb. The person who tries to push forward on empty, who ignores their need for rest and renewal, who powers through exhaustion with willpower alone, that person will eventually burn out or break down. Sustainable achievement requires sustainable energy management. Marden understood that our beliefs about what's possible are often our greatest limitation. If you believe something is impossible, you won't seriously attempt it, and your belief becomes self-fulfilling. But history is filled with examples of people who achieved what everyone said was impossible precisely because they didn't accept those limiting beliefs. The 4-minute mile was considered a physiological impossibility until someone ran it, and then suddenly many others achieved it too. The limitation wasn't physical, it was mental, a collective belief that shaped reality until someone challenged it. What impossible things are you not attempting because of unquestioned beliefs? What could you accomplish if you suspended your certainty about what's possible, and instead asked, what if it is possible? How would I approach it? This doesn't mean attempting genuinely impossible things like defying the laws of physics, but it does mean questioning socially constructed limitations, conventional wisdom about what people like you can achieve, assumptions about what's realistic or practical. Many of your limitations exist only in your mind, and you'll never discover which ones until you test them. The power of deadlines and specific commitments cannot be overstated. A vague goal like "I want to write a book someday" has almost no motivating power, but "I will complete the first draft of my book by December 30. Creates urgency, focuses attention, and mobilizes resources. Deadlines force decisions. They prevent endless postponement. They create accountability. This is why successful people set specific, time-bound goals rather than merely harboring general wishes and aspirations. But deadlines must be realistic enough to be believable, while ambitious enough to require growth. A deadline so distant that there's no sense of urgency won't motivate action. A deadline so impossible that you don't actually believe you can meet it won't mobilize your full effort, because at some level, you've already given up. The sweet spot is a deadline that stretches you, that requires focused effort and discipline, but that you genuinely believe is achievable if you do your part. Marden addresses the importance of environment in shaping your success. Your physical surroundings influence your mental state more than you might realize. A cluttered, chaotic environment creates mental clutter and chaos. A clean, organized, inspiring environment supports focused thinking and productive action. This doesn't require expensive furnishings or elaborate designs. It simply requires intentionality about creating a space that supports rather than undermines your objectives. Consider your workspace. Does it inspire you or depress you? Does it minimize distractions or invite them? Does it contain visual reminders of your goals and values, or is it filled with irrelevant clutter? Small environmental adjustments can produce significant behavioral changes. The person who creates a dedicated workspace for their creative projects, even just a corner of a room, will produce more work than someone who tries to create amidst household chaos. The person who removes their television from their bedroom will sleep better and wake more rested. Environment matters, and you have more control over it than you might think. The social environment is equally important. Are you surrounding yourself with people who elevate you or drain you, who challenge you to grow or enable your worst habits? Who believe in your potential or mock your ambitions? You may not be able to completely control who's in your life, but you can influence the balance. You can seek out positive influences, limit exposure to negative ones, and choose carefully who gets your time and attention. There's a particularly insidious trap that Marden warns against: the comfort zone. Once you achieve a certain level of success or comfort, there's a strong temptation to stop growing, to protect what you have rather than risk it for something greater, to play it safe rather than continue pushing your boundaries. This is how potential dies, not in dramatic failure, but in comfortable stagnation. The person who was once ambitious and driven becomes complacent, more concerned with maintaining their current position than with pursuing their larger vision. The architect of fate recognizes that comfort is seductive but dangerous. Growth requires discomfort, learning requires confusion, achievement requires risk. The willingness to regularly leave your comfort zone, to attempt things you're not sure you can do, to risk looking foolish or failing publicly, this willingness is what keeps you vital and expanding throughout your life. The alternative is slow decline disguised as stability, the gradual narrowing of your world until you're defending a smaller and smaller territory against the threatening unknown. Marden shares the principle that problems are actually opportunities in disguise. Every problem you face is simultaneously a chance to develop new capabilities, to demonstrate your character, to create value by solving something others find difficult. The person who sees only the difficulty of problems becomes overwhelmed and helpless. The person who sees the opportunity within problems becomes resourceful and increasingly capable. Same problems, completely different outcomes based purely on interpretation and response. Think about the entrepreneur who faces a supply chain disruption. One response is to panic, blame circumstances, and feel victimized by events beyond control. Another response is to see this as an opportunity to find alternative suppliers, to innovate around the constraint, to differentiate from competitors who are similarly affected but less creative in their response. The problem is the same, but the opportunity-focused entrepreneur will likely emerge stronger, while the victim-focused one struggles and complains. The practice of regular reflection and self-assessment is essential for staying on course toward your goals. In the daily rush of activity, it's easy to get caught up in busyness that isn't actually moving you toward what matters most. Regular reflection creates space to ask crucial questions. Am I making progress toward my most important goals? Are my daily activities aligned with my deepest values? What's working well that I should do more of? What's not working that I should change or eliminate? Am I becoming the person I want to become? This reflection doesn't require hours of meditation or complex journaling practices. Even 15 minutes at the end of each week to honestly assess your progress and plan adjustments can dramatically improve your trajectory. The unexamined life, as the ancient philosophers taught, is not worth living. More practically, the unexamined life tends to drift away from what truly matters, pulled by the urgencies and demands of others, rather than guided by your authentic purposes and values. Marden emphasizes the critical importance of beginning, of taking that first step even when you can't see the entire staircase. Waiting for complete clarity before starting is another form of procrastination. You'll never have perfect information. You'll never be completely ready. You'll never have all the resources you think you need. At some point, you must begin with what you have, where you are, and trust that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Action creates clarity that thinking alone never will. There's a powerful story about a woman who dreamed of starting an organization to help homeless youth. For years, she told herself she would start once she had enough money saved, once she had completed more training, once her own children were older, once circumstances were more favorable. Meanwhile, homeless young people continued suffering without the help she could have provided. Finally, she recognized that she was using preparation as an excuse for fear. She started with what she had, a spare room in her home and a desire to help. That modest beginning eventually grew into a thriving non-profit serving hundreds of young people annually. But none of it would have happened if she'd waited for perfect conditions. The principle of association works not just with people but with ideas, the mental company you keep, the books you read, the media you consume, the thoughts you regularly entertain. These shape your consciousness just as powerfully as your social relationships. If you fill your mind with negativity, cynicism, sensationalism, and triviality, that becomes your mental environment. If you fill your mind with wisdom, inspiration, beauty, and truth, that becomes your mental atmosphere. You're always marinating your consciousness in something. Make sure it's something that elevates rather than degrades you. This is why Marden was such an advocate for reading uplifting literature, biographies of great achievers, philosophy that expands understanding, and practical wisdom that can be applied. Not as escapism, but as mental nutrition. Just as you wouldn't survive long on a diet of junk food, you can't maintain a healthy consciousness on a mental diet of junk content. This doesn't mean everything you consume must be serious or educational, but the overall balance matters enormously. The development of self-discipline is perhaps the single most valuable capability you can cultivate. Every other achievement depends on it. You can have brilliant ideas, tremendous opportunities, generous support, and still fail if you lack the self-discipline to follow through consistently. Conversely, even modest natural talent, combined with iron discipline, will often outperform genius combined with inconsistency. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, between intention and result, between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. How do you develop discipline? The same way you develop any capability, through practice. Start with small commitments and keep them absolutely. If you commit to exercising for 10 minutes daily, do it every single day, without exception. If you commit to writing one page, write it regardless of whether you feel inspired. These small kept promises to yourself accumulate into self-trust and capability. Each time you keep a commitment, despite not feeling like it, you're strengthening the mental muscles of discipline. Each time you break a commitment to yourself, you're weakening them. Marden teaches that circumstances don't make you, they reveal you. The pressure of difficulty doesn't create your character, it exposes what was already there. This is why two people in identical circumstances can have such different responses. The circumstances are simply revealing their different internal resources. This means that how you respond to challenges is actually feedback about who you've been becoming, about what you've been cultivating within yourself during easier times. The person who has been building character, developing capabilities, and strengthening their mental and moral muscles during good times will respond to crisis with resilience and resourcefulness. The person who has been coasting, taking the easy path, and avoiding discomfort will crumble when seriously tested. This understanding should motivate you to use your current circumstances, whether easy or difficult, as training ground. Don't waste easy times in complacency, use them to build strength for harder times ahead. Don't just survive difficult times, use them to develop capabilities you'll need for your next level of success. Every season has its purpose in your development if you're intentional about extracting its lessons and opportunities. The power of prayer or meditation, depending on your tradition and beliefs, is another element Marden addresses. Taking time to quiet your mind, to connect with something larger than your immediate concerns, to align yourself with deeper purpose and values, this practice has sustained people through incredible difficulties and guided them to remarkable achievements. Whether you understand this as connection with the divine, with universal intelligence, with your higher self, or simply as focused introspection, the practice itself is valuable. In our noisy, distracted culture, the ability to sit quietly with your own thoughts, to listen to the still, small voice of wisdom within, to step back from the urgency of the moment and reconnect with what truly matters, this is becoming a rare and precious capability. The person who cultivates this practice tends to make better decisions, maintain better perspective, and access creativity and insight that aren't available in the constant rush of activity. Even 10 minutes of quiet reflection daily can transform your entire life trajectory. Marden addresses the question of balance, the need to pursue your goals with intensity while also attending to the other dimensions of life that matter: relationships, health, recreation, spiritual growth. The person who sacrifices everything for career success, only to find themselves wealthy but lonely, accomplished but unhealthy, admired but empty, that person has failed at the deeper game of life, even while succeeding at the surface level. True success integrates achievement across all the domains that constitute a well-lived life. This doesn't mean perfect balance. At every moment, there will be seasons when career demands more attention, other seasons when family needs take priority. But over the arc of a lifetime, you want to avoid catastrophic neglect of any essential dimension. The entrepreneur who builds a billion-dollar company while destroying their health and relationships has made a terrible trade. Better to build a moderately successful business while maintaining vitality and loving connections. The ultimate architecture is not just of professional fate, but of an entire life well constructed across all its essential elements. The principle of continuous improvement, of always seeking to do better, to learn more, to refine your approach. This is what separates those who achieve initial success from those who sustain and expand it. Many people reach a certain level of competence and then coast, relying on past learning and established approaches. But the world keeps changing, competitors keep improving, and what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. The person committed to continuous improvement stays relevant and effective throughout their career, always learning, always adapting, always looking for ways to enhance their capabilities and their contribution. This doesn't require massive changes or constant revolution. Often it's about small, incremental improvements accumulated over time. The salesperson who tries one new approach each week, the writer who studies one aspect of their craft each month, the leader who reads one management book each quarter, these people are practicing continuous improvement. The compound effect of these small enhancements over years and decades is extraordinary. Meanwhile, the person who learned their craft 10 years ago and has been repeating the same approaches ever since is slowly becoming obsolete. Marden understood that failure and setbacks are not just inevitable, but necessary for growth. Every person who has achieved anything significant has failed more times than most people even attempt anything. The difference is that they didn't let failure define them or defeat them. They extracted the lesson, adjusted their approach, and tried again. This resilience in the face of failure, this refusal to let temporary defeat become permanent, this is what creates ultimate victory. Consider the inventor Edison, who tried thousands of materials before finding the right filament for his light bulb. He didn't interpret those thousands of failures as evidence he should give up. He saw them as essential data points, as the necessary process of elimination that would eventually lead to success. When asked about his failures, he reportedly said he hadn't failed at all. He'd successfully discovered thousands of things that didn't work. This reframe, this refusal to accept the label of failure, this is the mindset of every great achiever. The importance of celebration and acknowledgement of progress cannot be overlooked. Most people are so focused on what they haven't yet achieved that they fail to acknowledge how far they've already come. This creates a psychological state of perpetual dissatisfaction, always feeling behind, never feeling successful enough. But when you regularly pause to acknowledge your progress, to celebrate your wins, even small ones, to recognize how you've grown and what you've accomplished, you create positive reinforcement that fuels continued effort. This isn't about becoming complacent or stopping your pursuit of greater goals. It's about maintaining psychological health and motivation through the long journey of achievement. The marathon runner who only focuses on the miles remaining will feel discouraged. The runner who acknowledges each mile completed while keeping the finish line in sight maintains energy and motivation. Same race, same distance, but completely different psychological experience based on what you choose to focus on. Marden taught that your reputation is built one interaction at a time, one kept promise at a time, one demonstration of character at a time. In our connected world, your reputation precedes you and follows you. People are constantly forming impressions based on how you treat others, whether you do what you say you'll do, how you handle difficulty, whether you take responsibility or make excuses. Over time, these impressions accumulate into a reputation that either opens doors or closes them. You can't control what others think about you, but you can control the raw material they're working with. Treat people with respect, keep your commitments, do excellent work, admit mistakes, give credit generously. These behaviors build a reputation that becomes an asset throughout your career. Conversely, taking credit for others' work, making excuses, delivering sloppy results, treating people poorly, these behaviors build a reputation that becomes a liability. Your reputation is working for you or against you, even when you're not in the room. Make sure it's working for you. The practice of mentorship, both seeking mentors for yourself and serving as a mentor to others, is another powerful accelerator of success. A good mentor can help you avoid costly mistakes, open doors through their network, provide perspective when you're too close to a problem, and encourage you when you're discouraged. Finding someone who has achieved what you're pursuing and persuading them to guide you can compress decades of learning into years. And serving as a mentor to others who are earlier in their journey reinforces your own learning, expands your perspective, and creates meaning beyond your personal achievement. Mentorship doesn't require formal arrangements or enormous time commitments. Even occasional conversations with someone more experienced can provide immense value. And mentoring can happen through casual interactions, not just structured programs. The key is being intentional about learning from those ahead of you on the path and being generous in sharing what you've learned with those behind you. Please like and subscribe to Audiobook Library, as it helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more transformative content like this. Your support enables us to continue sharing the wisdom that can genuinely change lives, and we're grateful for every person who takes a moment to subscribe and engage with our community of learners and achievers. As Marden's teachings make clear, the architecture of your fate is not a one-time construction project, but an ongoing process of building, maintaining, refining, and expanding. You're never finished growing, never done learning, never complete in your development. This should be encouraging rather than discouraging. It means that no matter your age or circumstances, you have potential for continued growth and contribution. The person who stays vital and engaged into their 80s is practicing the same principles as the ambitious 20-year-old, setting goals, learning continuously, maintaining health, building relationships, contributing value. The ultimate message of Marden's work is profoundly empowering. You have far more control over your destiny than you realize. Not complete control. Circumstances and other people's choices affect you, and there are genuine limitations and constraints. But within those boundaries, you have tremendous creative power. The thoughts you think, the beliefs you hold, the habits you practice, the associations you maintain, the goals you pursue, the responses you choose. These are largely under your control, and these are the primary factors determining the quality and direction of your life. This power brings responsibility. You can't blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for a life you haven't fully committed to building. Yes, some people start with advantages and others face additional obstacles. Life isn't fair in its distribution of starting conditions. But even those born into privilege must architect their fate, or they'll squander their advantages. And those born into difficulty can architect remarkable lives if they embrace the principles Marden teaches. Your starting point doesn't determine your ending point. Your choices do. The daily practice of these principles is what creates lasting transformation. Reading about success, understanding the principles intellectually, feeling inspired by examples, these are valuable but insufficient. Application is everything. The person who reads this summary, feels motivated for a day or two, but then returns to old patterns will experience no lasting benefit. The person who identifies one or two key principles and commits to practicing them daily for the next 90 days will see genuine change in their life. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it inspire you temporarily and then fade into the background of your awareness? Or will you treat it as the practical blueprint it is, selecting specific principles to implement, creating systems to support their practice, and measuring your progress over time? The teachings are useless without application, but with committed application, they can genuinely transform your life. Consider starting with your morning routine. How you begin each day sets the tone for everything that follows. What if you started each morning by spending just 15 minutes on practices that align with Marden's principles? 5 minutes of visualization, seeing yourself successfully accomplishing your most important goals. 5 minutes of reading something educational or inspirational that expands your mind. 5 minutes of planning your day with clear priorities. This simple practice, sustained over months and years, would fundamentally alter your life trajectory. Or focus on the principle of concentrated effort. Identify your single most important goal right now, the one that if achieved would create the greatest positive impact on your life. Then commit to spending at least 1 hour each day working specifically on that goal, before you do anything else, before you check email or social media, before you allow other people's priorities to consume your time and attention. This focused hour, protected and practiced daily, would produce more progress than scattered efforts spread across many competing priorities. The choice is yours, it always has been. You can drift through life, reacting to circumstances, accepting whatever comes your way, and wondering why others seem to achieve so much more. Or you can become an architect of your fate, deliberately designing your future through conscious thought, disciplined action, and persistent effort aligned with clear vision. The principles work. They've worked for countless people throughout history. They'll work for you if you work them. Your life 5 years from now will be dramatically different from your life today. The only question is whether that difference will be the result of conscious creation or unconscious drift. Will you be living the vision you're pursuing or the circumstances you're accepting? Will you have developed the capabilities you're committed to or remained at the same level of competence? Will you have built the relationships you're investing in or maintained the same limited network? Will you have achieved the goals you're working toward or accumulated the same list of unfulfilled wishes? 5 years will pass regardless. Time moves forward whether you use it intentionally or squander it carelessly. But how you use those 5 years, the thoughts you think, the habits you practice, the choices you make day after day, these will determine whether you look back with pride and satisfaction or regret and disappointment. The architect of fate looks forward, makes plans, and takes action. The victim of circumstance looks backward, makes excuses, and takes whatever comes. Marden's work reminds us that greatness is available to ordinary people who apply extraordinary principles with consistent discipline. You don't need genius-level intelligence, inherited wealth, or lucky breaks. You need clarity about what you want, faith that you can achieve it, knowledge of the principles that govern success, and the discipline to apply those principles even when you don't feel like it. These are available to anyone willing to pay the price in focused effort and delayed gratification. The world needs what you're capable of creating. There are problems only you can solve, contributions only you can make, perspectives only you can offer. But those gifts will remain latent potential unless you architect the life that allows them to emerge. This isn't just about personal success. It's about stewardship of the unique capabilities you've been given. You have a responsibility not just to yourself, but to the world to develop your potential and share your gifts. So begin today, right now, with whatever you have, wherever you are. Don't wait for perfect conditions or complete confidence. Take one small step aligned with your vision. Make one choice that reflects the person you're becoming rather than the person you've been. Plant one seed that will grow into the future you're creating. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and the architecture of your fate begins with a single decision to take control of your thoughts, your habits, and your trajectory. Remember that every expert was once a beginner, every master was once a student, every successful person was once uncertain and afraid. What distinguished them was not the absence of doubt or fear, but the presence of courage and commitment. They felt the fear and acted anyway. They doubted themselves and persisted anyway. They faced obstacles and found ways through, over, or around them. You have that same capability within you, waiting to be activated through decision and demonstrated through action. The principles Marden teaches are not complicated, but they are challenging. They require you to take responsibility for your life rather than blaming circumstances. They require you to think long-term when short-term pleasures are calling. They require you to persist when quitting would be easier. They require you to believe in possibilities when current evidence suggests impossibility. They require you to become someone new rather than remaining someone comfortable. But the reward for meeting these challenges is a life of meaning, achievement, contribution, and fulfillment. You stand at a crossroads right now. One path leads to more of what you've already experienced, the safety of the known, the comfort of the familiar, the resignation to circumstances. The other path leads to uncertainty, challenge, growth, and the possibility of achieving things you currently can't imagine. Only you can choose which path to take. But understand that not choosing is itself a choice to remain on the path of least resistance, which rarely leads anywhere worth going. The architecture of fate is not reserved for a special few. It's available to anyone willing to understand and apply its principles. You have within you right now everything you need to begin building a better future. You have a mind capable of vision, a will capable of discipline, hands capable of work, and a heart capable of courage. These are the only tools you truly need. Everything else, knowledge, skills, resources, connections, can be acquired along the way as you need them. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. This simple formula, applied consistently over time, produces extraordinary results. Don't be overwhelmed by the distance between your current reality and your ultimate vision. Focus on today, on this moment, on the next right action. The person who climbs the mountain does so one step at a time, not by teleporting to the summit. Trust the process, maintain the vision, take the steps, and have faith that you're building something remarkable even when you can't yet see the completed structure. Your destiny is being written right now, in this moment, by the thoughts you're thinking and the choices you're making. Will you write a story of courage or of retreat, of growth or of stagnation, of contribution or of consumption, of vision pursued or of dreams deferred? The pen is in your hand, the page is before you, and the next words are yours to write. Make them worthy of the life you're capable of living and the person you're capable of becoming. Please check our video library for other transformative content that can support your journey of growth and achievement. We've gathered wisdom from the greatest teachers, the most inspiring stories, and the most practical principles to help you build the life you're meant to live. Each video is created with care to provide genuine value, not just information, but transformation. Thank you for being part of this community of learners, dreamers, and achievers who refuse to settle for less than their full potential.